right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to Excuse My Frenemy, the podcast where we talk about some of the big topics in sports and where two fans of rival teams try to put their sports allegiance aside, but we make no promises. Thank you for taking time to give us a listen. I am Sean Brady, and with me, as always, except for last week, is my co-host, Katie Cabrera. What's going on, KC?
Hey, it's good to be back finally. After a whole week of vacation, can you blame me? Going to Disneyland, going to Universal Studios Hollywood for the Nights of Horrors. But
You got it
in that
rough.
and yeah, I got it rough, but definitely got it rough. But in all sense, I got to share some big news with you guys. I am now engaged completely. I proposed at Disneyland, and after the proposal, I said, "Let's get the beep out of Disney because those lines are ridiculous." But it was all good, you know. We had a little happy, cheery moment. I was really nervous, but at the end of the day, I accomplished what I went there for, and I wanted to go back to the hotel and go back to bed.
All right, well, congratulations to you and Danny. Couldn't be happier for you guys. I just wish that you didn't have to take a whole week off to do it because, this should be the priority. No, I'm kidding. In all seriousness, congratulations, Katie. Congratulations, Danny. Happy for you guys. But now let's get down to some business. So in
All
this
right.
week's episode, we're going to recap week 6 of the NFL, look ahead to week 7. We'll take a look at the upcoming NBA season. We'll give some of our thoughts on the Super Bowl halftime show, which we had to wait for Katie to come back from vacation to talk about. And then lastly, we're going to talk about the MLB deciding to provide some housing for the minor league players. But before we get to all that, Casey, you were out last week, and there was a big media bomb surrounding John Gruden. Normally, if you weren't here, I'd say sucks to be you, but it's kind of a big topic. It's a really big deal. So I want to make sure I give you the chance to give your thoughts on the topic. So what was your take on the whole John Gruden fiasco?
He ain't the only one, but John Gruden was somebody that they found multiple emails written over the 10-year period. But I mean, we're definitely in a time where you have to be careful on how you phrase things. You can't just come out and say, I believe X, Y, and Z, because not only will you offend someone, but you don't know how that person will feel later on. And of course, everything that you said back then is now catching up now, especially to these people who, are in the spotlight, especially for someone that is in the spotlight for like the Raiders. Right now, Las Vegas Raiders are getting a lot of hit fans and stuff. They're showing off during their game season. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see him step down and see who the new coach will be. Have they determined that part yet? I was reading up on.
I believe it's still just the assistant coach. I don't know. They haven't got a full new head coach yet.
Okay, so definitely going to be looking forward to seeing who the new coach is. But just like I said, he's not the only one. Definitely, there's going to be a lot of things that they're going to be looking into after this. Especially nowadays, the LGBT community is very huge. It's not as small as it used to. All it takes is a few months or even a year for it to change dramatically. We could go back to 10 years ago. So what? We're 2021. So that's what? 2011. LGBT wasn't that huge. A lot of comments would be thrown out to people who were barely coming out. So it's understandable how, these comments weren't taken to heart. But nowadays, looking back, and people nowadays with the new generation, there's no easy comments you could just throw out there anymore. You got to be careful with everything you do.
Yeah, and like you said, he can't be the only one. I know the NFL came out saying so far he's the only one that, and I call BS on that. You don't send emails with that much comfortability
Yeah.
if you're the only one. I just think everybody else that's in there probably has a little more pull than John Gruden, and so.
Yeah, definitely.
And the other thing I
And
found extremely ironic is Carl Nassib, like the only
oh,
openly gay player, is on the same team as John Gruden or former coach John Gruden. Like, I can't imagine what he was thinking reading those emails. In fact, I think I heard that he actually had to take a couple of days off just personally to get his thoughts together. And as far as I'm concerned, he could take a couple of weeks off because you find out your boss thinks that about you. That's rough.
yeah, and that's going to his own players, and imagine the fans who are are part of that community, and they're like, "Whoa, I'm supporting this team right here. This is my team right here. I'm supporting the coach who's leading our team to victory." And to find out all these emails that were sent out, it's a big hit. It's not an easy hit that anybody could take. especially given that, June is known for the LGBT community. Like, was he faking it all along every time they celebrated? Or there's a lot of leagues, baseball's one of them. We have soccer that celebrates it, Pride Nation. So I kind of imagined, was Gruden just, you know, faking it through all these years, that when somebody, expressed the community, would he just turn around and just be like, yeah, okay, I don't really support you guys, but I'm just here for the camera and the money.
Yeah, and I don't think it's a coincidence that a lot of this email traffic stopped in 2018 because that's conveniently enough the same time he got employed by the Raiders. So, because the Raiders, and for that matter, the 49ers, and in addition to the entire Bay Area, if there's one thing I've learned since I moved out here, is this area leads the forefront of equality when it comes to the LGBT community. I believe the Raiders were like one of the first organizations to have a female executive. Like, these are two organizations and an area in general that is big on leading on that forefront. And I just think it's way too convenient that he does it for 7 years and then stops as soon as he's back employed.
Yeah. No, definitely. I mean, this is so similar to there's so many situations so similar to this subject. We're talking about, like, going off a little bit off topic, like those people who pay high money, who have all this money in the world to get their kids into college, but yet they target just one person. For example, the actor from Full House. They targeted her because she was very well known, went after her because she paid USC to get her daughters in. It's the same thing. I mean, John Gruden is not the only one. So there's many more coaches that they should look into. But of course, like you said, because of power, their popularity, and the money, they're not going to get caught.
Yeah, like Lori McLaughlin, I think was her name. She was the face of that whole thing, even though, like you said, she wasn't the only one. Like you said, John Gruden's the face of this one, even though they're saying he's the only one. Okay, so let's get back into a little lighter discussion now.
Woo! I don't know about lighter, but let's go lighter.
Okay. Well, because I was going to toss it to you. I was going to ask you, Katie, what you want to talk about from last week.
Yeah, I want to bring it up. Let's talk about the Steelers versus the Seahawks. So the Steelers led by 14-0 on halftime. Just to begin it, Steelers are 3-3, Seahawks are 2-4. But at the end of the day, it was a 23-20 in overtime, with Chris Boswell to kick the 37-yard field goal. So, I mean, it was a good game. It was. I definitely thought at the beginning that the Steelers were going to take it, especially given to know that the Seahawks quarterback, Russell Wilson, is down because of his finger injury. It's definitely a whole new chemistry that they're learning, that the Seahawks are learning, because Russell Wilson hasn't been down for almost a decade, ever since he joined the Seahawks. I think the Seahawks did a pretty good job, but damn, we need to push it. I mean, after the Niners, it's been loss and another loss and another loss. What do you think?
So I think you kind of hit on a lot of it. First of all, if Russell Wilson's playing, I don't think there's any way in hell they lose that game. But you can only play who the other team has.
Exactly.
I was with you. I thought Seattle was going to pull it off because I just can't bring myself to cheer for the Steelers or Ben Roethlisberger. So that was more emotional than anything else. But I think this kind of exposes a much bigger issue for your beloved Seahawks. First, without Russell, they are average at best, and it shows. Like you said, they didn't even score a point in the first half, which kind of leads to the other point. Even when they had Russell Wilson, I haven't seen the Seahawks play a complete game yet. They've had a lot of good halves, but like they had that 2-touchdown lead against the Titans, they lost that. Or they'd have a be behind on another team and come back and either make it close or win the game. But they have not put together 60 minutes of football, and that's bizarre to me for Russell Wilson / Pete Carroll team. That's not their history. Usually they're good at that, but if they can't get that together, I hate to say it, I think they're going to be in the cellar of the NFC West.
Just like you said, they just might be. I mean, it was crazy. After the first toss, the field goal range, TJ Watt sacked Geno Smith. So we're talking about quarterback, we're talking about the defense line, and we're also talking about their receivers. Where are they at? Nowhere to be found. So I mean, it's cool that after halftime they managed to tie up, but the fact that it took all the way to halftime for the Seahawks to start playing the way they should be, yeah, no, we'll see what happens into the future.
So, in other words, you're saying it was a rough way to end your vacation.
Yeah, it's a very rough way. Thanks for reminding me.
Don't mention it. My pleasure.
I mean, I don't know how many losses I could have took yesterday, but I took 2 losses, including my beloved Dodgers. But that's a whole different story. We'll talk
We're
about
not
that
even going to
later.
get started with them. No,
Yeah, no,
forget
no,
that. Yeah.
leave them alone.
Until further notice, baseball doesn't exist.
No, thank you.
We're going to go from, pardon the phrase, Katie, but we're going to go from the cellar of the NFC West to the top of the NFC West, and more specifically, the top of the NFL. That's right. My topic, you knew it was coming because I had nobody to talk about it last week. We're talking about my beloved 6-0 undefeated Arizona Cardinals. So, the good seasons for the Cardinals, I admit, are few and far between. But when they are good, it's typically offense shootout defense relies on just a big play, but they don't really actually stop anybody unless they get the big play. And there's been like no existence of a running game. That's typically how a quote unquote good Cardinals team goes. Katie, I'm telling you, this team's different. They have 4 wide receivers that are over 20 catches. Like they got Hopkins and Kirk, they got 26. Rondell Moore's got 24, and A.J. Green has 20. No other team in NFL has 4 wide receivers with 20 or more catches. There's teams that have 4 more players, like with a tight end or a running back. That's nice and that's cool. But if you want to argue that, I'll see your point, and then I'll raise you Chase Edmonds because he also has 26 receptions. So they're spreading the ball. There's balance. Like last year, if you could shut down Hopkins, you shut down pretty much half the offense with one guy. Defenses don't have that luxury against them anymore. They can spread it around so well, and Murray's finding them. It looks like the game is slowing down for him, which I love. Like you pressure him, he's like, oh, there's the empty spot. There's the receiver, 6 points. But the other things that I think are big is they're also running the ball. I'm not used to seeing that. Like they are fifth. They are 5th in the league in total rushing yards, but they're 6th in the league when it comes to yards per game, because some teams have only played 5, yada, yada, yada. But that means that they have a top 10 offense and a top 10 defense and a top 10 rushing game. In other words, they're just a damn good team, and I'm thrilled to death. They're even 4th in the league in rushing attempts. That's unheard of for the Arizona Cardinals because they're usually always behind. And their defense, they're tied for 2nd in the league in fewest points per game. Can you tell I'm excited?
Yeah, I mean, from the beginning, from when I first met you and we first started talking about our teams, you were like, I go for the Cardinals, and I just looked at you and I was like, you, who's a big sports fanatic, you want to keep talking about it, you talk about each player and stuff, you go for the Cardinals? What? And you were like, it's just born and raised, and I'll stick to them till death, even though they make me want to pull my hair that I don't have anymore out.
Whoa, I don't have the hair by choice. Let's clarify that.
Okay,
I cut it short on purpose. Don't make it sound like I'm losing it.
It's on purpose, not on accident.
Yeah, so if you thought I was excited when the Suns were making their run, because every time I saw you, I would just look at you and I would just say 23 years.
I know, you and everybody.
I'm sorry, my apologies, 28 years. Every time I saw you, I was like, Katie, 28 years. That's why I'm so excited. But I will tell you right now, football, I love football. I love to play basketball, but I love watching football. If you thought I was obnoxious during the Suns playoff run, let the Cardinals make a deep playoff run. You're going to see some obnoxiousness out of me. I can't even talk. I'm so excited.
I don't blame you. I mean, Cardinals have been putting up great games. They've been undefeated so far. So I give it to you, Brady. Like, damn. Cardinals are up there, and my Seahawks are just down there.
So I got one more nugget for you, just because I want to keep rubbing it in. The Cardinals are the first team since 2007 to win their first 4 road games by double digits or more. Well, I guess you can't do more than double digits, but you know what I mean. You know the last team that did that? It was 2007. Any ideas who that team was?
My beloved Seahawks?
No. It was the New England Patriots, and that year they went 16-0.
Ah,
Now it
with
didn't.
Tom
No,
Brady.
it didn't end well for them. But the fact
Right.
that they are in any kind of stat that compares them to the 16-0 Patriots has me just giddy.
Oh, man.
All right, so speaking of some of the players, I want to get into a little bit of an MVP discussion with you. So,
Of course. Name your number one. Let me guess.
Well, let me run down some of the names I've heard. That way we know, because everybody's compared equally. The one I hear a lot's Lamar Jackson. He's got his Ravens 5-1. He's 8th in the league in passing yards, 12th in the league in completion percentage, which his knock is he can't pass the ball. Clearly, that's not accurate. But what I think separates him from a lot of other players is he's also 7th in the league in rushing. Not 7th quarterback in rushing, 7th player in rushing in the entire league. So he's literally top 10 in both passing and rushing. Kyler Murray, he obviously 6-0. He's 7th in the league in yards, but he's 1st in completion percentage. Again, spreading the ball. Right. Matt Stafford, he's 4th in yards. Dak Prescott, he's 5th in yards, and he's 2nd in completion percentage, which, if you know anything about the history of the knock on Dak Prescott, completion percentage was not his strong suit. You obviously got Tom Brady because he's leading the league in yards because they don't understand what a running game is at all. You could say Aaron Rodgers, but instead of Aaron Rodgers, I'm going to throw in Devontae Adams because Aaron Rodgers is not having, at least statistically, not having an MVP season, but Devontae Adams is. Right. He's leading the league in receptions and yards. And if I'm going to throw him in, then I have to throw in Cooper Kupp because he's also tied for the lead with most receptions, 2nd in yards, but he's got 7 touchdowns, which leads all receivers. And then the one oddball that I just want to give a credit to, I don't really like the Cowboys, but this guy's playing so well, I got to give him credit. He's not going to win the MVP, but if he keeps this pace up, he's going to win the MVP, is Trayvon Diggs, the corner for the Cowboys. Dude's got 7 picks. Nobody else in the league has more than 3. He's also leading the league in pass defense, and, oh, by the way, he's tied for 1st in most defensive touchdowns. That's Dion worthy, those stats. Now, Dion never won the MVP, and I don't see Diggs winning the MVP either, but I just want to give him credit because they should have a defensive MVP, and he should get that. Now, everything I just ran down for you, Katie, if the season was over today, who's your MVP?
You know, growing up, I love my beloved Seahawks, but I was once my Patriots fan because of my high school. We were known as the Patriots, so I had to go with the Patriots. And so Tom Brady will always have me at heart. But Sean, I'm going to actually give it to Murray. For sure, Arizona quarterback has been nonstop. Like you said from the get-go, every time he's being rushed, every time they're coming for him, he's like, I spot my openers, shooting my ball that way, and we're getting a touchdown. So honestly, I think he's leading them to victory this year. And for a quarterback to be doing all those inspiring moves, especially the win over San Francisco, I got to give it to him.
So first of all, that had to hurt. That had to be painful to pick an Arizona Cardinal as your reigning MVP.
Yeah.
And second of all, you're talking about your love for the Patriots because your high school team. That was like 3 years ago. You making it sound like your high school team was 20 damn years ago.
Hold on. I know it's not going to even make it sound better, but I graduated in 2015. That doesn't make it sound better.
That didn't help at all.
But the Seahawks and of course my Patriots were always my top 2. But I mean, at the end of the day, of course, the Seahawks took the West Coast of my heart. But Tom Brady has always had my eye. I mean, the way he plays, and no matter what team you put him on, he manages to make that connection with all his teammates to make sure the ball gets where it needs to be. But like I said, it hurts. But the Cardinals quarterback, Murray, has it going on right now. His team is repping what he's putting out. He is undefeated right now.
Okay, all that sounds great. But as somebody who's been married 15 years, talking to somebody who's newly engaged, don't ever say somebody else has your eye because Giselle, her ears probably perked up from New England.
Yeah. Maybe my high talk will kind of curse you guys, but we'll see.
Oh, now the truth is coming out. Okay, I see. Gotcha. Tracking.
High talk them and then watch them just fall out.
Okay, so here's the rough part for my pick. I'm actually not going to give it to Murray. At least not
What?
yet. At least not yet. He's right there in the discussion. In fact, he's probably second, if not even my quote-unquote 1B. But what Lamar Jackson is doing is historic. He is not only, I think he threw for 400 yards a couple weeks ago, and he's constantly running the ball. Like, not only is his team winning, he's the only reason they're winning.
Yeah.
Because with my thoughts on MVP is, it's not so much just, take that person off the team. How bad does the team fall? That is a factor in it. I do think you have to be a good team to even be considered. But once you figure out who the best players on the best teams are, that's when you start figuring out, okay, well, who is more responsible for their team's success? And Kyler Murray, yes, he's responsible for probably 90 to 95% of the Cardinals' success. I will grant him that. But Lamar Jackson is responsible for about 99.9.
Yeah.
So now, don't get me wrong, they're in a tough division, so maybe Lamar Jackson comes back a little bit. But if the season was over today, I would say Lamar Jackson is getting it, only because no other player that I can ever recall has been top 10 in both passing and rushing. That's just unheard of. Okay, so moving on. Let's wrap up our NFL talk. Let's go into our predictions for next week. So, yeah, Katie, you weren't here, but I pretty much argued with every pick you made just for the sake of disagreeing, and it totally cost me. That will not happen again, I promise you. So far,
next time, just skip that part.
Next time I'm just going to edit out my predictions because they were that bad. I mean, when I'm sitting here praying that Bill Belichick comes up with a defense, that's not a prediction. That's hope. That's two different things.
Oh man!
So right now you went 4-1 last week, which puts you at 9-6, and I went 1-4, which drops me to 7-8, which goes to show I don't know what I'm talking about at all. So for this week's games, you got the 3-3 Denver Broncos going into Cleveland to play the 3-3 Browns. Who you got?
Cleveland! I'm going for the Clevelands.
The Clevelands?
Oh, here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, this is where you find out that Katie Cabrera took ESL as a young student. Yes, Spanish was my first language. Cleveland. I corrected it.
Yeah, I'm not doing what I did last week. I'm not letting your pick influence mine. I'm taking the Browns too. I don't think the Browns are a bad team. I just think that their 3 losses have come against all teams that are good. Denver, jury's out whether they're actually good. I tend to think they're not, so I'm going to give Cleveland a win there too. Next game, 4-2 Cincinnati Bengals go to Baltimore to play the 5-1 Lamar Jacksons.
I'll give you the facts. Baltimore's going to take it. 1, it's hometown, and 2, Lamar Jackson is just somehow going to make it happen. So it's going to be one of those games where it's going to be a really close game, but Baltimore will take it home.
Yeah, I agree. I can't sit here and say Lamar Jackson's MVP and then pick against him in the very next game, so I'm going with the Ravens too.
I was hoping you would. I was like, I'm going to hear him out real quick.
We're moving on to the next one, and I swear, if you pick the other team, we're going to fight the next time I see you face to face.
I'll make sure to close my door.
All right, here we go. We got the 1-5 Houston Texans going into Arizona to face the undefeated Cardinals. Katie, you better not take the Texans, but who you got?
Ladies and gentlemen, Katie Cabrera will choose Houston. No, I'm kidding.
Too late. You said Houston. I'm writing it down. You lose.
No, don't do that. I'm choosing the Cardinals. For sure. I mean, come on. Houston 1-5, Arizona Cardinals 6-0. Come on. let's give the Cardinals that MVP that they deserve, and we're putting Cardinals.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to be surprised to hear this. I'm picking the Cardinals too. So, again, I can't talk all that and then not pick the Cardinals. All right, next game. The 2-4 Indianapolis Colts are going into Frisco to face the 2-3 Niners coming off of a bye. Who you got?
Oh, Indianapolis Colts, for sure. I mean, the Niners are great and all, but they have too many injuries, so.
Okay, I'm actually taking the Niners. They're coming off of a bye.
Okay.
We kind of thought this at the beginning of the year, I think, but the Colts are proving that they're not a good team. I thought they were average, but I think they're starting to show us that they're just genuinely not a good team. So,
Yeah.
and if Frisco is going to be any kind of resemblance of who their fan base thinks they are, they have to win this game. So I'm taking the
Yeah.
Niners.
Okay.
And the last game, we usually don't pick Monday night games because we tend to record this on Monday night. But because it is your team playing, we're going to go ahead and we're going to pick the 3-2 Saints going into Seattle to face the 2-4 Seahawks. Katie, who you got?
My beloved Seahawks. I hope. So I'm choosing the Seahawks. Honestly, I wish our audience could sometimes see our video recordings, but I'm like, no, because I am making the ugliest cry right now for the Seahawks to win at least this game. But Seahawks for me.
So what you missed last week was I went through a little the contenders and pretenders in the NFL. And the one team I literally couldn't make a decision on was the New Orleans Saints. Because one week they look like world beaters, the next week they look like total garbage. So, but I'm going to pick the Saints, one, to disagree with you whenever I can, but two, they're also coming off a bye week. They get the added day of being a Monday night game, so they've had 15 days to prepare. And oh, by the way, Seattle still doesn't have Russell Wilson. So if the Saints are serious about being a playoff contender, there's no excuse why they shouldn't win this game. And I just get the added bonus of disagreeing with you. Now that we got all that out of the way, it's time to move on to our second topic.
Can we talk about something else?
Guess what's coming back?
That's right, boys and girls. It is time for the NBA preview. We are here to give you our basketball expertise, which means to everybody else, we're just guessing. So let's get the big question out of the way right out the gate. We're just going to rip off the Band-Aid. KC, who you got in the finals?
I swear, if you're not thinking what I'm going to say, then we have a problem. We have a big problem that we're going to start making separate podcast shows, which I'm going to end up asking you to be a co-host with me. But I got to give it to my beloved home team, LA Lakers. So for sure, I believe that the Lakers are going to make it all the way through. And then my second pick is going to actually be the Nets. The Brooklyn Nets is going to be an interesting game, but I mean, I believe they're going to be another top pick for me too. And especially that tomorrow's game is going to be very interesting. Best believe I'm going to be sitting on the couch versus the Warriors and the Los Angeles Lakers. I mean, come on.
Okay.
My fiance's from SF. I'm from LA. There's definitely going to be some beef, and there's definitely going to be someone sleeping on the couch, which is probably going to be me. So
I'm with you on the Nets. I think they're the best team in the East. Milwaukee's going to be good again, but I think that the Nets, if they had a little more cohesion last year, they would have taken it. Even without Kyrie, because he's not playing this year because he doesn't want to get vaccinated. But in a weird addition by subtraction, I think they're better without Kyrie. They seem to play better when he wasn't on the court. So I know it sounds kind of backwards, but yeah, I'm with you on the Nets. No, you know who I'm picking. We made it there last year. We found the formula. We got the point guard. We're as long as we can shoot, we're going back to the finals, because the only reason it's weird to say this, the only reason we lost the finals last year was when Saric got hurt, because all of a sudden we couldn't rebound and we just got killed on the boards. I never thought I'd say this, but he turned out to be the MVP for the Suns, because without him we were lost. I got the Suns in the finals.
I was not surprised you were going to say that.
Moving on now, is there any team you got as a surprise going into the season? They're like somebody who's nobody's really talking about, but you think not maybe win it all, but make a good run at the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I'll throw this out. I'll give it to the Warriors. I know that we're a little too early to talk about disappointment, and we're talking about excitement right now, but I have to say the Warriors are both my excitement and my disappointment. Mostly because they have the potential. Trust me, they do have the potential, but just like their Giants, just like their baseball team over here, they give their best shot, and when they're up there, they just manage to just let it all go. That's what I'm gonna say. The Warriors are definitely my exciting team, but also my I kind of saw that for coming, like forecasting already. So whatever.
Yeah. The Warriors I could have put in either category too, because I've heard both ends of the spectrum of as soon as Klay Thompson comes back, they're going to be a top 4 team and they're going to be in the Western Conference Finals.
Yeah.
Then I've also heard, well, even when he comes back, they might be fighting for the playoff play-in tournament. So I've heard both.
Yeah.
So I kind of ruled them out because what it comes down to me is nobody knows what the Warriors are going to be like. So it was hard to say that. But I got a surprise team for you. My surprise team is the Charlotte Hornets.
Why?
So they started improving at the end of last year. And I'm kind of using recent history for this. But like in the bubble, the Suns played really well and literally built momentum for the next season. And the Hornets kind of did that too. They were in that playoff. I believe they were in that play-in tournament to get in the playoffs last year. Now they got LaMelo Ball for the whole season, which out of all the Ball brothers, he's by far the best, and he's only played one season. If they got a healthy Gordon Hayward, because he's good, he just can't stay healthy, which kind of seems to be a running theme for him. But they also added Kelly Oubre Jr., which he's not the greatest player, but he brings that toughness, for lack of a better term, to teams. When he played for the Suns, he brought some attitude. Last year he played for the Warriors. He brought that same. So if nothing else, he's not there to play around. And they also picked up Mason Plumlee, which in the NBA you got to have a big man in the middle. I know it's a perimeter game, but you got to have at least a big man to change a shot, and I think he can fill that. I'm not saying they're in the finals, but I could see them making the playoffs rather easily, actually. So, but that's the team I don't hear anybody talking about. So that's my surprise team.
Okay, that's it. That's actually going to be interesting this season. I'll keep a lookout for the Hornets, right? Yeah, the Hornets. So,
and then I got two disappointing teams.
Oh God, okay, go. The
first one is the Sixers, because until that Ben Simmons thing is fixed, they're basically the step parents fighting in front of the kids, and that's never going to be resolved. But my second team is going to be your Lakers.
Why?
So I will say this. Okay, they signed Russell Westbrook. They got Melo. They signed Dwight Howard, or did they re-sign Dwight Howard? Was he there last year? I can't remember.
Yeah, he was.
Okay, so DeAndre Jordan, and they still brought back Rajon Rondo. Not to mention, you still got Anthony Davis and LeBron James. Cool. Here's why I don't have a warm and fuzzy. I know it's the preseason, but they didn't win a single preseason game. And the big telltale for me was when they actually played the Warriors in the preseason, and the Warriors played nobody. The Lakers played their full squad and still lost. That's not a good sign. Again, I know it's preseason, but win one game in the preseason. Come on. The second one is just more historical nostalgia of this seems a lot like the past Lakers teams who they believe the solution is, let's just go get a bunch of aging all-stars and try to make a run. And the last two times they've done that, it hasn't really worked out for them. Now, in 03 and 04, they did it when they had Kobe, Shaq, Karl Malone, and Gary Payton. But granted, they made it to the finals, but that's the year that they got surprised by the Detroit Pistons. So right. I get they made it to the finals, but the finals, everybody will admit, was not their goal. They wanted to win. With that expectation, that was kind of a failed season. I mean, for their expectations, it was failed. Everybody else said it was a great season for the Lakers. They expected to win it. Anything short of it. It was like the 16-0 Patriots. Their expectation was Super Bowl. They didn't win the Super Bowl, and that's all anybody talks about. And then they tried to do it about a decade later when they decided to bring in, well, they still had Kobe. They had Paul Gasol. They brought in Dwight Howard, fresh out of Orlando, and they signed Steve Nash, and I think they still had Ron Artest. Yeah, that year, that was supposed to be the next super team. They were the 7th seed in the playoffs. They got swept in the first round by the Spurs. So when they get these aging all-star teams together, it usually doesn't end well for them. So for that, I mean, I'm not saying they don't make the playoffs, but again, their hype is finals or bust. I see them being a lower-seeded playoff team, so that's a disappointment to me.
You know, now that you mention it, yes, I love my Lakers, but I will admit as well, the Lakers are a very top Western, they're one of the top Western teams, and for sure, I see them getting into the Western Conference. However, when it comes down to playing the more bigger leagues, like not the bigger leagues, but other leagues as well, like the Nets and the Suns, they find themselves in trouble sometimes. You could see themselves doing some things that they shouldn't be doing, like Ouch. LeBron gets hurt, starts getting mad, starts yelling at the ref. Ref's like, all right, fine, go ahead. Some strikes like that. But either way, huge die Lakers fan, and I'm still repping them. And I have faith. I have faith no matter what, that they're still going to put a competition out there for that. So.
You act like LeBron yelling at the refs is something new.
No, it ain't nothing new. It's just LeBron. But
every time he dribbles, he's yelling something at the ref.
he's yelling or he's down crying. So whichever you want.
Okay, let's move on to our next topic. And our next topic is the Super Bowl halftime show. So, for those who have not heard, the announcement the NFL and Pepsi made is the Super Bowl halftime show will be a combination of Snoop Dogg, Eminem, Dr. Dre, Mary J. Blige, and Kendrick Lamar. All right, so the show is set to go in Inglewood SoFi Stadium, which is a big LA tie for Dr. Dre, Eminem, and Kendrick Lamar, who all believe are from the LA area or surrounding areas. So this lineup includes a combined 43 Grammys. Like I said, numerous Grammys here. Mary J. Blige is nominated for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, one of the top female R&B artists of all time. Snoop Dogg's got 17 Grammys. Dr. Dre is financially one of the most successful rappers in the history of everything. He's created his own label. He created beats. Like Eminem's got 15 Grammys, and the list just keeps on going. And a lot of people don't want to admit this, but rappers have become icons, and these are a bunch of icons.
Yeah.
So the last 5 shows that have taken place in reverse order, they had The Weeknd, they had Shakira and J-Lo, they had Maroon 5, Justin Timberlake, and Lady Gaga. So, first, KC, you excited for this show?
I am. I mean, you're talking about legends of rappers and hip hop. You know, it's been a while that I've actually heard a Kendrick Lamar actually show himself to his fans again. The last time I heard him, I mean, it was back in 2017 when his last album dropped. So can you imagine the excitement of just having Kendrick Lamar, Dr. Dre, Eminem, Mary B, and all these, and Snoop Dogg. Of course, Snoop Dogg has always been featured in here and there, different songs. And it's pretty cool that Snoop Dogg's actually made that Spanish song. It's I got to come up with the name with it, but it's an awesome song. You would never expect to, get into it, but it's very catchy. But it's going to be a great show. This is one of the shows that you must see. All your famous old time rappers and hip hop is all combined in one stage. So I'm kind of looking forward to this.
Right. So like in the 90s, between the East Coast, West Coast rivalry, rap, I want to kind of say seemed to go to a dark place, if I'm phrasing that correctly. And what I mean by that is the rap was big, but only to certain group of individuals. Like everybody else just saw it as violent lyrics. But I'm not saying Dr. Dre and Snoop weren't a part of that. But having said that, Dr. Dre, Snoop, and Eminem and Mary J. Blige were part of what basically got the rap name out of just being straight gangster rap and turned it into and put it into more hip hop that everyone can appreciate, if that makes sense.
Definitely. I know where you're coming from. I know, like, hearing Eminem at an early age, if you've listened to his lyrics, they're not too touchy on gang members and all that. It's really the reality of growing up in poverty, And I know a lot of people could relate to him because it's hard to grow up in tough neighborhoods with low income, not having to support your family, even though you're still in high school or even middle school, So even till this day, I could go back to his old albums back in 2004, 2003, and still, sing each song by lyrics. Even when I'm lifting, I have him playing. Of course, Dr. Dre is there. These are icons that we still look back today. And it's definitely something that we're like, hey, have you ever listened to this? You got to listen to this.
Oh, yeah. Because I guess the point I was trying to make, because even Eminem's first couple albums, a lot of people were just like, hey, that's just more violent rap. But
Yeah.
I can almost, or at least from my point of view, I can almost pinpoint the time when rap and hip hop went from, oh, that's just violence and gangbangers or whatever other term they want to use, and when it turned into more mainstream, everybody was a fan no matter what they were saying. And that
Yeah.
point in time was when Dre came back out with 2001.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
because I don't know a single black, white, Hispanic, Asian, I don't know a single person that was not excited for that album to come out. And
Yeah.
with the level of the beats and how they mixed everything together, they still had some lyrics that some people probably thought were touchy. I'm not going to lie. But almost everybody was like, okay, they got some rough parts, but I can still listen to that. And
Yeah.
like, I ain't gonna lie, I probably played that CD 1,000 times. And I had some tracks I skipped, but there was like only one. It's like one or two of them.
Right.
I listened to the rest of that album. I think that turned the tide to it, like, because before then you didn't see them doing much. After that is when Dre starts getting into beats. Snoop Dogg
Right.
starts doing all the commercials, and with Martha Stewart or whatever, the Corona commercials, like he all of a sudden he's everywhere, and it's just insane. Now I will admit the one person in this headline that I'm really kind of unfamiliar with is Kendrick Lamar,
Okay.
and that's only because from what I understand, he doesn't have a label. He puts out his own music. Now, like he's like the king of the underground, from what I understand.
Yes.
So I mean,
Definitely is.
I have heard the name a million times. I just haven't really heard any of his music. But if he's doing this with these other individuals, I gotta assume his music is on point.
No, definitely it is. I mean, his last album had some nonstop beats that I could, like Poetic Justice. We have the one with Rihanna, the famous Rihanna song with him. I mean, there's so many songs that Kendrick Lamar has made that it's when you listen to them and you start hearing the beat even till today, you're just like, that's Kendrick, that's Kendrick, that's Kendrick. And truthfully, I was ready to go to a day in Vegas to just go see Kendrick because I haven't heard Kendrick or seen Kendrick since 2017. It's been a while since the last time underground rapper has been out. And for him, I think this is kind of a hint to his fans, like, hey, I'm coming out in the Super Bowl, but don't. I'm definitely going to be dropping something soon for you guys. So
Yeah,
definitely,
I have noticed a trend that a lot of these Super Bowl halftime shows is somebody who's got an album coming out. Now it's Snoop has been trying to get this for years,
yeah,
so it doesn't surprise me. But the fact that Kendrick Lamar is in it might lead some credence to, hey, he's probably got an album coming. But as far as like my excitement for the show, I am excited to see the show, but I'm also nervous, but not probably for the reason you think. So to me, the Super Bowl halftime show, it's not just a concert; it's basically a party. It needs to
oh
be
yeah,
a blast, a fiesta, if you will. Like it needs to just be take the roof off the building. Everybody's into it. Moments.
yeah. I definitely agree.
Rappers have the tendency to just stand on the lyrics or stand on the stage and sing their lyrics, and if that's what they do, I'm gonna kind of be disappointed because as much as I want to hear the songs and I want to see the performance, if all you're gonna do is stand there, I could have just played your album. So I'm a little nervous because I want them to do something. Now, like we said, Dre and Snoop specifically, above all else, they are showmen, or at least they've become known as showmen.
Yeah.
So they got something up their sleeve. They have to have something. I don't know if it's going to be a special appearance. I don't know if it's going to be some great special effects, but they're going to have something up their sleeve. They're not just going to stand there and sing. But I'm nervous just in case.
But that leads me to your next thing. So now that you mention it, it's very iconic that we watch the Super Bowl and we remember that for centuries down the line. Oh, remember when this happened? Remember this halftime show?
Hold up, you remember
So
things for centuries?
okay. Ha 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 ha. Didn't start watching TV till I was like what 10, 8, because I got my TV taken away. Too many novelas past 8 p.m. What I'm saying is halftime shows go on forever, and if you put your best performance, people will remember that. But if you put the worst ones, oh, definitely people are going to remember that. And there's YouTube videos to back that up. So Sean, who was your best halftime show?
So I usually don't watch the halftime show because I'm glued to my chair for the rest of the game. So the halftime show is usually when I get my snacks and all that stuff. And I usually end up coming back to the living room and just asking my wife, hey, how was the show? So I actually had to go back. When we said we were going to talk about this, I actually had to go back and watch a lot of the halftime shows. And the one that stood out to me where I just ended up leaning back in my chair saying, this is awesome. Even on YouTube, this is awesome, was Beyonce. Like,
Okay.
There was dancing. It was not just a concert. It was a show. They had the Destiny's Child reunion. It was just like, and she didn't have no other than Destiny's Child. They didn't have no other special thing like big lions coming in like Katy Perry or a bunch of other side things. It was just her out there performing with a bunch of dancers, but it was entertaining. It wasn't just her performing the songs. They had twists, they had turns. They were doing some dance moves. I'm like, "Oh, girl, you doing that in heels?" Like it was impressive. So that was by far my favorite one that I saw. What about you? What was your favorite one?
Oh, come on. Ever since she made her first song come out on, was it MTV morning music videos? Oh man. I gave it back to Lady Gaga 2017 Super Bowl halftime show in Houston, Texas, when the Patriots versus Falcon. And of course, going back to it, Patriots was my team. So let me tell you, have you ever watched someone just fall from the top of the stadium roof, flying down with flames coming down, and her twirling in there, making dance move as she comes down and singing? Have you ever seen that in a Super Bowl halftime show? No, but Lady Gaga made that happen. And of course, Lady Gaga's known for her famous costumes, her favorite hairs, her favorite songs, and her favorite choreography. She's just an amazing singer overall. She's definitely a talented artist. So 2017 was my favorite year of the halftime.
Yeah, when I went back and watched it, I was like, it was one of my top ones too. But like you said, the entrance, she could have like done absolutely terrible afterwards. But that entrance with the flying drones and all that other stuff, like I was like, yeah, that was the only one I think I saw that I thought might have been better was Madonna's entrance when she came in with the Egyptian style thing, because of the magnitude and size of it. But yeah, the creativity of the drones and then rappelling from the ceiling, that was crazy. I'll grant you that one. That was a good one.
Yeah. So definitely was one of my top ones.
Okay, so now that we talked about the best, do you have an idea for which Super Bowl you thought was the worst?
Not the worst, but I think it's when that they chose to have J-Lo. You know, it's great. Back in 2020, they chose J-Lo, and she brought out Shakira. I don't know if you remember that, but the one
I do, but I remember that it was Shakira who brought out J-Lo. From what I understand, it was the other way around.
Damn, my bad.
But that's your point. That's actually your point, because everybody remembers it as J-Lo show, but it was really Shakira show.
Shakira. So let me tell you, Shakira is known for her choreography and is known for her music. You know, She Wolf, Beautiful Liars, Hips Don't Lie, and we're going back to the early 2000s. But Shakira is just phenomenal. I enjoy and love every single song she has made, and also her dance. But I just wish they just, they thought of Beautiful Liar and they plugged Shakira and Beyonce together. I think that would have been such an amazing halftime show, like nonstop, back to back. That chemistry in that music video, you could see how aligned they are with each other. Beyonce is the Shakira in the Hispanic world, and Shakira is the Beyonce in the hip hop world. So definitely, I wish the 2020 was back to, the 2020 halftime show was like more of, ooh, Shakira's on, and then J-Lo comes on, and I'm like, I'll come back later.
So I actually didn't mind that much, because if memory serves, I believe that one was in Miami. So that show was big on the Latin culture. And I mean, I like Shakira. I like her songs, but I also see Shakira as more of a global superstar more than a United States superstar, which is, I think, why they brought J-Lo in.
Right. I can see that.
Yeah. So that's the only reason that to be fair, I think that's the only reason they brought J-Lo in, is because they were probably paranoid that Shakira just wasn't big enough stateside to draw on the viewers, which is laughable, because no matter who you put in the halftime show, there's going to be massive viewership. My worst one, and little disclaimer, I did not go past the year 2000 because when I Googled worst halftime show ever, I saw things like 1992 they did a football on ice halftime show, and 95 they did Indiana Jones. So I ruled all those out because that's just garbage.
Yeah, and I mean, you gotta admit, the 91 one, It's a Small World by Disney. Why? I cringed going on that little boat ride.
One year Disney had the halftime show and they wasn't even at the Super Bowl. It was at alternate location in Orlando. I was like, that's a disqualifier.
Yeah. Oh my god.
So keeping that in perspective of more recent rather than 30 years ago, but by far the worst one I saw was 2010 with The Who.
Oh man.
They had, don't get me wrong, I don't mind The Who. They have good songs. I kind of bob my head with their songs, like Who Are You and all that stuff. But they literally was just a couple of old guys standing on the stage, just singing into the microphone. If I did the math, combined, they probably moved a total of 20 feet in the entire time they were on the stage. Again, this is a party, not just a concert. Don't just stand there and sing to me. Entertain me. And I was almost falling asleep watching the YouTube video. So I just thought that one, and I think the NFL realized that was probably a bad one, because after that's when they started getting bigger stars, or I should say more controversial stars, if that's the right word I'm looking for, because they had a long stretch where they just played it safe. So, which kind of leads me to my next question. Do you have a most memorable one?
I would have to go back to your 2016 halftime, which was the Coldplay and Beyonce, and I believe Bruno Mars too. So the last time I saw Coldplay was at their last concert that they were ever going to do. And then all of a sudden I hear Coldplay, Beyonce, and Bruno are coming together to perform this, and it was phenomenal to watch them, because one, Coldplay is just, it's like we talked about, there's someone that you must show down to your kids in the future. Coldplay was one of those songs, those hits that had vocals, and not only that, but got other artists to play with them, like Rihanna. You had Beyonce, you had, I believe, Usher, but I got to double check on that. But they had some cool mixes with them. And then Beyonce is just, I mean, you can never go wrong with Beyonce. Like you said, Beyonce's just power. She has authority. And then not only that, but she has a phenomenal show that she always puts on, especially given on that, I think during that 2016, I think, was it the Black Lives Matters as well? I mean, 2021, I get it, but I was in 2016 where Kepner took a knee down.
It was 2016.
Okay. But I definitely, Beyonce made sure to, promote what was, that issue that was going on. So definitely she incorporated a lot of that into her performance. And then of course, Bruno Mars, another artist we haven't, really put out much music until now. So it was amazing to have all of them combined. So I got to give it 2016 halftime.
Yeah. So my most memorable one, and it's not even close, it has to be the Janet Jackson wardrobe malfunction. Because I'll sit there watching with my buddies. We're halfway watching the show, and all of a sudden we all look up and sit up in our chair at the same time. I was like, was that her boob? All of a sudden we're 14. We're like, ooh, I saw a boob. We were shocked. Did I just see that correctly? What just happened? And here's why it's the most memorable. Let me tell you who else was in that concert besides Justin Timberlake and Janet Jackson. P. Diddy, Nelly, Kid Rock, Jessica Simpson. They were all in it. I have no recollection of them being in that Super Bowl halftime show at all. Zero. None. The only thing I remember is that's when Justin Timberlake pulled off her clothes in front of the world.
Right.
But I also think that's the point when the NFL went on this long stretch of, okay, we can't, and this is what I was going back to before with The Who, they had this long stretch of performers that they thought were quote unquote safe. Because after that, they had Paul McCartney, the Rolling Stones, which, yes, we live in a time where the Rolling Stones are considered a safe artist to put in front of the world. They had Tom Petty, Bruce Springsteen, all these performers that they weren't going to walk away from that Super Bowl halftime show with controversy. So, right. And it wasn't until after The Who, and I think the NFL finally realized, hey, we can't just keep running out these nostalgic 80s artists and just to play it safe. Because after that, they started bringing the Black Eyed Peas and Madonna, who they weren't great performances, but they were better than the 5-year run that they had of just old guys standing there singing. And no disrespect to any of those artists. They have great songs. They're just not Super Bowl party artists. They just want to sit there and jam, which I need you to entertain, not just jam.
Right.
So that by far is the most memorable one I can ever remember, and will probably, even if I get old and have like 3 brain cells upstairs, I'm going to remember that Super Bowl halftime show. Okay, now with that, let's go ahead and move on to our final topic. And our final topic is Major League Baseball. More specifically, Major League Baseball now deciding to require teams to provide housing for their minor league players. So the owners from all 30 teams unanimously decided on a plan that would provide housing for the minor league players. Now, they haven't decided if it's just going to be like a stipend to pay for your housing, or if they're actually going to provide the lodging like a hotel or whatever out yet, but they are definitely going to provide housing for these players. And before you think, oh my God, that's a lot of money, there have been multiple executives that have come out saying that they explored the finances of this, and for each team to do this for their minor leaguers, it's going to cost less than $1 million.
Okay.
That's less money than Bobby Bonilla makes from the Mets for the next 30 years. So like,
I was about to say, yeah.
That's chump change when you're $1 billion organization.
It is. And to be honest, going into this subject, I think this is a great opportunity for minor league baseball to, get themselves situated and start focusing more on, their performance. Because when you're making around roughly 8,000 to 14,000, it's rough. It's rough. Especially if you put that in account, if you're living in California, it's rough.
Oh,
so yeah.
I looked this up. Like, as of right now, I think if I read the article correctly, single A ball players are making $500 a week. Double A $600, Triple A $700. They only play like for a 5-month season, so that brings their salaries. If you're a single A player, it's $12,000, and about almost 14.5 for Double A, and 16.8 for Triple A. Here's the part that bothered me. The more I did research on this. So they are clearly below the poverty line. Now, granted, I don't know what they do in the other 7 months of the season, but for that 5 months, they are poor. Because I took the time and I looked up every state's minimum wage scale for their state, because there's no federal one. It's all based off state. I averaged it all out. It comes out to just over $9.50 per hour is the minimum wage. Wow. So if you take that, multiply it by your traditional 40-hour work week times 52 weeks a year, you're making close to $20,000 a year, which, again, we could all agree is not very much. That's still $3,000 more than the highest paid minor leaguer makes. So my next question was, okay, well, if they're being paid so little, how is that legal? Like, don't states have minimum wage things? You'll like this. So back in 2018, as part of a $1.3 trillion spending bill, Congress passed the, quote, Save America's Pastime Act, which basically stripped minor leaguers from protection for being paid under minimum wage.
That's terrible.
There's not even legal ramifications for these guys to come back. And the biggest proof I saw was actually earlier this year, because living in the Bay Area, I heard about this with the Athletics. Over the summer, a report came out that the Athletics, their single A affiliate, they had a 2-week homestand. Well, their hotel bill for their 2 weeks at home was higher than their 2-week income.
Ouch.
So they literally ended up coming out of pocket in addition to their entire paycheck just to live and breathe. That doesn't count food. That doesn't count anything other than the hotel.
Right.
That alone is a joke. So I'm gonna let you talk. I've talked for a while, so I'm gonna let you give your thoughts on it. But I think this is a great idea, and I think given how much it's going to cost, I think it's way overdue, and they probably should actually do more. But what are your
No,
thoughts?
definitely. So I mean, Major League Baseball should be doing a lot more for the minor league baseball. I mean, they should know what it takes to be in that position and having to work your way up, you know? And like just like you said, that's 500 that you're ranging around 8,000 to 14,000 for their whole season in total. That's not even enough to feed your family, to make sure your housing is paid. I mean, rent just in SF alone is like what? 33,000 of 4K, especially if you're with the family of two and more. So, can you imagine what 14K will get you through? I mean, these are minor league baseball players are probably having another second or third job with them just to make it through, to the next season. So, like for example, for a single A player, they make a total of 10,500 in 5 months of work. And we're talking a triple A player makes a total of 14,700 in 5 months of work. What? We're looking back at like Mike Trout. He gets a total pay of 45.3 million in earnings. I'm pretty sure they have a lot more to share. You know, and I understand. Major League Baseball is a lot different than your NFL, your NBA, and all other sports. I think last time that I was reading about this and looking into it was when one of my soldiers was actually making a report, an essay about this. Major League Baseball and minor league baseball make money off of tickets sold, the stuff like such as T-shirts, sweaters, the venue they sell, and different things that they're able to put out for the team. They make money off of that. So I'm pretty sure when the pandemic hit, it was a hard hit on Major League and minor league baseball because there was not enough fans joining their groups, and also there wasn't enough, items being sold. So coming back to 2021, people are starting to go back to games. You're starting to have more fans. You're starting to have more viewers. You're starting to have more sales. Major League Baseball just blew, and for the minors, it just stayed the same. So I'm pretty sure Major League Baseball could, kind of give more to the little league and kind of pay for housing, make sure they're practicing, making sure they're insured while, they're off season. A lot of what the Major League Baseball, they could get a share of that too for the minor leagues.
Oh yeah, and to your point, like the money they make is already minimal as it is, but that, to my knowledge, they don't get like food or anything like that. Like major league clubhouses, I'm pretty sure they serve meals to the players. So it's like the richest players are getting the free food, and so it's kind of bass backwards, if you will. But like you can tell at least in stadium that they're hurting because I don't know if you heard like here, but during the Giants playoff series with the Dodgers, parking was going at about $130. So
yeah, like
I drop $130 to park my car and I get maybe a $20 beer and a $15 hot dog. I don't want to spend no money on any of the merchandise.
Yeah, I was looking into tickets, last minute tickets, and I saw a VIP box. You're talking about like Section 39, still up in a high skyrise. You're talking about like 300, 320, roughly around there for each ticket. Why? I mean, if Major League Baseball could sell their tickets for that price, I don't see why they can't, help the minor leagues sell their tickets at price or give some to them so that way they are able to enjoy their season just like the Major League Baseball are with no stress. So
well right. Well, I mean, the tickets I get because it's kind of bigger product, bigger stakes, bigger cities, like whatever. It's everything else that makes it ridiculous. Like I said, the $20 beer and the
oh my god,
parking. So because a lot of these minor league teams are in smaller cities, so
yeah,
like unfortunately for those cities, like raising ticket prices isn't the solution because then nobody's coming. Because as poor as the players are, most of the people in those cities and towns probably feel like they're not exactly wealthy either, and then you raise prices, they're not going to show up. So it's literally going to have to come from the major league, the league pocketbook more than it is like the players or the cities.
Yeah.
All right, folks, that's our show for today. I hope you like it. Casey, where can the folks find more of you?
Hey, you guys can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and even Snapchat. But those two, you can always find me. It's just Katie Cabrera, or you can look at Cat178 and you'll find me on Twitter.
Well, if folks want more of me, they could also find me on Twitter. I'm at Sean_Brady82. That's SHAWN_BRADY82. I had fun, Katie. Did you have fun?
I definitely had fun, especially coming back after a week vacation. I definitely missed you guys. So glad to be back.
Okay, so you're not going to go on another vacation. I'm going to see you next week.
You're going to see me here next week. Same time, same place. So please let us know what you guys want to hear, what your next topics want to be, or if you have a little debate you guys want to bring up, we'll make sure to give you guys a shout out on that. So please, whatever you guys want, make sure to comment.
Oh, I'm all about arguing sports. That's why me and you are the ones hosting this show. But anyway,
yeah,
had a blast, Katie. I'll see you next week. Let's do it again.
All right. See you later, man.